this week's episode of Assassination Classroom, Koro Sensei's mysterious backstory finally comes to the forefront, and one of the students of Class 3E is not who they say they are. If you have not watched this week's episode of Ass Class, go do it now, then come back to this review, because there is a massive twist in this week's episode, a twist which is still causing my head to spin. This is an episode of Assassination Classroom that I really loved, and it made me appreciate the fact that I have not looked at the manga version first, because that would have completely spoiled this episode right here. So let's just go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. Kayano, yes, the cute girl who is obsessed with the fact that she does not have big boobs, Nagisa's default best friend, and all-around just happy-go-lucky side character from the series, is actually a hardened assassin herself. She even has tentacles which explode from the back of her neck, not unlike Koro Sensei and Itona Horibe, and she's been on a vendetta against Koro Sensei since day one. She also just happens to be an amazing actor, which is why she's been able to put on this act the entire time, biding her time, waiting for the right moment to kill Koro Sensei. And when it's revealed in this episode, I almost didn't know what to think. I didn't want to believe it at first. I didn't even believe that that was Kayano during that scene where the tentacles started coming out of her neck. But no, that's really her. At the very beginning of this episode, she comes up with this crazy plan by luring Koro Sensei into this room, which has all of these water beads all over the ground, basically trying to ask for his help. When suddenly, she uses this as an excuse to knock him down this massive crater where she can attack him in midair with her tentacles. Everybody is just flipping out and wondering what the hell is going on, and then it is finally all revealed. Her name is not actually Kayano. Her name is Akari Yukimura. She is the sister of Agure Yukimura, who is this female scientist and teacher who supposedly Koro Sensei killed, and she's trying to get revenge for the death of her sister. I don't believe that Koro Sensei is fully responsible for the death of his sister, and this all is starting to add up too, because this Aguri Yukimura, the sister of Kayano, was the original homeroom teacher of Class 3E, so that when she died, she asked for Koro Sensei to take over for her job. This is crazy, to say the freaking least, especially because they did such a good job of keeping Kayano's whole, backstory a complete secret. And it makes sense, too, because she even herself mentions she's a glorified side character. That's what she's been wanting to do the entire time, to just sort of blend in the background and sort of groove off of everybody's bloodlust, so that Koro Sensei wouldn't notice what she was planning. It also seems like she might even be in line with Shirou, another character who pops up in this week's episode, and also seems to have a relation to her as well. When she is confronted by Shirou in this episode, she tries to attack him and then runs away, and Shirou mentions that why would she do that to her brother? This could mean a couple of different things. They literally could be brother and sister, or Shirou is actually the husband of her sister who was killed, and this is all a part of his crazy plan to take out Koro Sensei as well. Two people who were afflicted by Koro Sensei, whose family member was hurt, and they're trying to get revenge for it. It's so sweet and awesome, and like I said, probably the best twist from the series that I have seen thus far. So, obviously, everybody in Class 3E is just completely freaked out, especially Nagisa, because he's like, how could this be possible? How could she have a completely different personality? Which one is the real Kayano? And apparently it is this one murderous one who has tentacles injected in her neck. In fact, there is this one flashback sequence where we get to see she's quietly walking to this big facility when there's this big explosion, and that's where her sister was killed, and we see Koro Sensei hovering over her body. Koro Sensei's form also looks a little different. It's all shrouded in shadow, but you can still see that he's covered in tentacles. He has a more humanoid-looking face with glowing red eyes, and he suddenly just disappears. She finds this vial, which are these tentacle seeds, which she uses to insert into the back of her neck. Apparently, this facility that either created Koro Sensei or the other tentacle people, they were trying to weaponize these tentacles which could be inserted in people's bodies. So, another hint to the background of Koro Sensei. I had a feeling he was going to be some sort of weird monster that was created with mad science, and that seems to be what's going on here. But it gets more shocking, because by the end of the episode, all of the students are like, alright, things are just getting a little too crazy right now. Koro Sensei tell us what your past is all about. And Koro Sensei is going to do that, but first he wants to get all of the students back together, which means they are going to have to go after Kayano, and luckily for them, it looks like she wants to have a showdown at the end of class. And the episode ends with Koro Sensei meeting Kayano in the middle of this field, where she creates this giant fire ring with her tentacles. Yes, her tentacles can actually turn into fire, basically into these like giant lava-like whips, and then she just starts attacking him left and right. It's so intense, and you can see that she's starting to be driven mad by her tentacles. Basically, those tentacles are boring their way into her mind and basically taking control of her body. Very similar to what we saw from Itona Horibe, who was also in this episode and was also noticing all of this. If anybody's going to snap her out of this, it's probably going to be Koro Sensei and Itona, although we all know that Shirou is probably watching close by, and he also seems to be working with someone else, who is not shown in this episode, but I'm 100% sure it has to be the Reaper. The two main villains of the series coming together and getting ready to team up against Koro Sensei, I honestly think that would be pretty freaking awesome. But the twist in this episode all about Kayano just completely blows my mind. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Assassination Classroom? From like the opening couple minutes of this episode to like the very end, my jaw was on the floor. This was such a great secret. They kept it perfect. Like, there is no evidence in any of the previous episodes that Kayano is actually like this hardened killer. She was always just sort of that really funny, goofy, bubbly girl who was a member of Class 3E. Simple as that. I didn't see her evolving that much more. I mean, she was always in the forefront a little bit, but basically just there to add a little bit more commentary and to have some funny scenes. And they did a great job of hiding it in a number of different ways, like that one episode that was dedicated to her and making the pudding. It just seems so out of character for the actual version of herself, which is known as Akari. And getting to learn a little bit more about her past and Koro Sensei's past and how all of this stuff is connected is just really awesome. This is the stuff that I've been really waiting to see. I love all of the episodes that focus on the singular students and all of the ones that progress the story, and this is one of those episodes that delivered. It also had some really great action scenes with her using her tentacles, the way she's able to move around in them when they're like flying down that crater. That looked all really awesome. Koro Sensei exploding out of the ground, and then that final scene where her tentacles literally look like lava as she created that big fire ring. That is some great style. I'm really, really digging it. And getting to go back to all the moments that she was mentioning, how she was having to like sort of hold everything in, like when you had Nagisa going up against Takaoka, how she could have just jumped in at any moment, or when she was being attacked by the Reaper. She claims that she could have been able to take him out, but no, she was continuing her act, and damn, she did a good job at it. This is a series that did a great job of hiding its twist and not giving us like any sort of hints to it, and that made the twist all the more meaningful for me. It's also made it so that if I ever rewatch Assassination Classroom, I'm constantly going to see if I can find some clues to who the real Kayano actually is. And to my knowledge, from all the episodes that I've seen, I can't see any evidence there. So, great job on keeping this secret, guys. Again, as soon as the anime version is done, I'm going to have to take a look at the manga, just because I want to see the differences between the two, but this is making me really glad that I've decided not to look at it, because this twist would have just completely spoiled it. This is an episode that I honestly didn't think anything like this was going to happen, and it completely blew my mind. It's made even better by the fact that Assassination Classroom does not have previews for its next episode, so I had no idea that this was coming. I kind of wish I'd have done a live reaction to this episode, because I kept talking through the whole thing, my jaw was on the floor, my mouth was constantly opening, and I just kept asking, what? What the hell is going on? What an amazing twist, and how this is going to send a massive rift through Class 3E. It's just fantastic. So this was a great episode of Assassination Classroom, with lots of action, lots of twists, and expanding on a character who really needed some big expanding. And while all at the same time, we're also getting some backstory on Koro Sensei. We got Shirou who's coming back, and another mysterious villain who might be the Reaper. We're getting closer to the finale of the second season, and you can definitely feel that in this episode. I'm so excited to see what they're going to do in next week's episode. I have a feeling they're probably going to get through to her, and she's going to return to her also bubbly personality, which is similar in many senses. Like, there are scenes and flashbacks in this episode where you see her hanging out with her sister, still being resentful over the fact that her sister has a bigger bust size than her. So there's still a little bit of Akari in Kayano as well. So I think that's also really unique. But I can't wait to see how this is going to wrap up. Will she be driven mad by the tentacles, or will Koro Sensei save his student? We will find out next time. What I will say is this episode right here was pretty damn fantastic. If I only had one complaint and it's not going to affect the score, it's another nitpicky one. I love the color scheme of the series, but there are a lot of times whenever there's somewhere that's like really dark or in a cave or underground where things are so dark that you can't like see anything half the time. And I've checked my settings, I've watched this like episode on like multiple like versions before I did this review, and no, it always looks really dark in certain places or it looks too bright in certain places. That being said, it's still an incredibly stylistic show which is really appealing to the eyes, and this was another fantastic episode of Assassination Classroom, one of my favorite from the entire series, without a doubt my favorite from the second season. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 5 out of 5. An awesome episode of Ass Class, which you should definitely check out if you're following the anime or if you're a fan of the manga version. So there it is, guys, my thoughts on this week's episode. But I want to hear from you guys. Before you leave today, make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. Did the twist completely throw you off guard? Are you a manga reader and you knew this was coming? Are you someone who just watches the anime and this completely blew your mind? Are they going to be able to save Kayano? And what do you want to see from the rest of Assassination Classroom? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of our anime and manga reviews, and make sure to follow us on social media. It's real easy. All that stuff is in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.